So you want to teach singing, but you don't know how to play piano. Well, like I said in this video where we went over the basic exercises you'll need to warm up your students, you probably shouldn't teach piano. But if you're a confident singer who wants to help other singers, there's no reason you can't teach singing. Hi, I'm Fiona and welcome to my channel, the #1 place for singers to learn how to be profitable in the new music business. And one of the ways is to have diversified income streams. I used to think my voice studio was just something I did on the side until that special day when I was earning enough solely from my performing career to give it up. In fact, I did try to quit teaching on several occasions, but something always seemed to stop me from quitting entirely. The truth is that I've always been passionate about my teaching and about helping people to break through their limiting beliefs and the physical tension they use to hide their fear. And whenever I tried to quit teaching, there was always at least one truly extraordinary student in my life whose journey towards self-discovery was a joy and privilege to witness and guide. Now I've come to realize that I can run my studio as I see fit, and I don't have to take every student who comes my way. I get to design my life and my income streams. So now I choose to teach just a handful of advanced students, and my focus using voice as the vehicle is on freedom, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Well, that's great, Fiona, but especially with advanced students, how can you possibly get away with not accompanying them? And what about when you were first starting out and had lots of beginners who didn't know how to learn a song and weren't even singing in tune? These are great questions, so let's get to it. 1. Regardless of who you're teaching, you'll probably want to learn how to play a major triad and octave, going up and down the keyboard. This is very easy to learn, and I teach you how in this video. All you need to do is practice for a couple weeks, and you'll probably be ready to warm up your students. 2. Now, if you're going to be teaching more advanced students, you can usually rely on them to teach themselves their songs. But even with advanced singers, there will be times you'll want to plunk out specific notes and phrases on the keyboard. 3. And if you're teaching beginners, then you'll definitely need to be able to teach them their part, usually the melody, but sometimes harmonies if they're in a choir. But before we dive into the melody, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. When I was getting my master's degree at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, I was assigned a singing teacher and an opera coach. Wait, what? In fact, I received a weekly session with each of them. But not only this, my opera coach would also show up to the second half of my lessons with my singing teacher. Why? Because my singing teacher at the conservatory level was not expected to be able to play my operatic music, or any music for that matter. In other words, my singing teacher focused on vocal technique and dramatic expression, and my opera coach focused on my musical accuracy, musical expression, and foreign languages. Yes, there was some crossover, especially when it came to musical expressivity, but generally speaking, they each held to their areas of specialization. And not only this, when I was teaching voice in the music department at Valencia City College in Florida, I was assigned a fabulous pianist to accompany my own students. So even at the city college level, the singing teachers were not expected to accompany their voice students. And this is not just a classical thing, because when I was teaching musical theater to the students at AMDA in Los Angeles, although I didn't have a pianist in the lessons with me, each student was again assigned an accompanist who they also worked with on a weekly basis, who helped them to learn their songs, worked on musical nuance, and often even produced tracks for them to use during practice as well as during lessons with their singing teachers. Why do I share this when you may not be teaching at a college or have the resources to hire an accompanist to play for your lessons? Because I want to speak directly to your ego and imposter syndrome for just a moment. Listen here, ego, stop trying to sabotage us with your notion of what we need to be able to do. You're just afraid of allowing us to claim our greatness and share our knowledge. At the highest levels of education, singing teachers are not expected to accompany their students. So why should you? Now, if you can play piano well, that's fabulous and more power to you. And several of my singing teachers over the years were excellent accompanists. Many more were not. But regardless, if you can play well, then you don't need this video, do you? So let's say you're an accomplished singer with limited keyboard skills. What can you do instead? If you're working with more advanced or pro students, then you can definitely ask them to bring their own accompanists to accompany themselves on their instrument of choice, especially if they sing contemporary music, or you can provide an accompanist for them at some or all of their lessons. I've encountered numerous classical teachers who have a regular accompanist working for them, and I've sometimes used one for myself, even in my private studio. I've also had singer-songwriters and singers who play in bands accompany themselves on piano and guitar, and I've had a couple singers bring in their own accompanists. But maybe you're teaching beginners, or you don't have the volume of students yet to make hiring an accompanist feasible. In this case, you'll definitely want to be able to play the melody with your dominant hand and to use pre-recorded tracks. But Fiona, isn't using a track not only unprofessional but sacrilegious? Doesn't it stifle an artist's creativity and hamper their musical expression? These are just some of the objections I heard from both my inner critic and the classical community at large, when I was both learning to sing and learning to teach. But now, most people understand that being able to sing to a pre-recorded track is not only useful in the studio, it's an absolute necessity professionally. Certainly, you need this ability as a studio session singer, but you also need it for lots of gigs, as well as lower budget operas and musical theater productions. So, where can you get the tracks? Over the years, I've collected a large number of tracks in the genres I personally sing, specifically musical theater and opera. So, if you're a woman, and especially a soprano, then I probably have you covered. For the rest of my students, I just ask them to provide their own track and to send it along to me in advance with a copy of their sheet music. Why the sheet music? Because I use it to pull out tricky sections to work on independent of the song as a whole. All I need is the singing line, which I will play with my right hand. Nowadays, it's very easy to find backing tracks, but I'll do a whole video on this subject and also on how it relates to recording YouTube cover songs in a future video. In the meantime, if you have any specific questions regarding backing tracks and cover songs, please let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to address them in those videos. Back to playing melody. I'm going to demonstrate what a session might look like, assuming you have the basic skill of playing a relatively simple melody line. And although teaching you how to read music is beyond the scope of this video, I can assure you that it's not hard to learn, especially since you aren't trying to become a full-fledged pianist. All it'll take is a little practice and maybe some YouTube videos, an online course, or a couple of classes at your local community college. After you know the basics, the only other thing you need is the confidence that you have something of value to offer your students, regardless of how well you play piano. So, assuming you can play simple melody lines, or once you learn how, here's what a typical lesson might look like. So when I was first starting out, I had a lot of beginner students and I was a beginning teacher. And so I found a song called My Funny Valentine, which was easy for me to learn and which was easy for them to learn as well. And one of the great things was that I had it in this book with the accompaniment CD included. You can see it says mezzo-soprano. Basically, it wasn't rangy and it could be sung by a man or a woman, a low voice or a high voice. They would sing along to the track, and if there was a tricky bit, then we would just stop and I would play the melody. Say, I'll pretend I'm the student and I'll sing, and I would play with them. My funny Valentine. And I would go, oh, your breath is a little bit slippery there. You're fluttering. Let's do it again and I'll help you with your breath. Let's breathe in for a count of 4 and then start. My funny Valentine. And then I might say, oh, you need to use a little bit more abdominal support. Maybe we've talked about what abdominal support means. And let's do it again. My funny Valentine. I would go, oh, that's lovely. Let's continue. Sweet comic Valentine. Then I might say, well, what does the word comic mean to you? What's a comic Valentine? And get their opinion and what do they think about the interpretation. And then say, great, let's do it again. Sweet comic Valentine. So that time I had an inner picture who my comic Valentine was, and so that came out. Then I might bring the accompaniment back in and have them sing it with the accompaniment, see how it went. Let them keep going. So basically that's all you have to do. Once you can warm someone up, then all you have to do is be able to play simple songs with your dominant hand and use a track as well. So one of my favorite beginner songs is Caro Mio Ben. It's one of the first songs that I learned, and it's one of the first songs that I started teaching. The nice thing about Caro Mio Ben is that it is in the key of C. And so if you have a classical student or a singer that wants to learn some classical technique, the key of C has no sharps or flats. So as a beginning teacher or beginning piano player, it's quite easy. So there's a little twiddly bit, but you don't have to play the twiddly bit. You can just go. So that's just another easy one. And there's a book called The 26 Italian Songs and Arias that comes with CDs and now probably digital downloads. And then there's also this more original one, The 24 Italian Songs. There are plenty of accompaniment tracks all over the internet for the songs that are in these books. But even without being able to play the melody, you don't have to let this stop you from starting to teach. Some singers do everything by ear, including the great Pavarotti himself. So as you're learning to play melody with your dominant hand, you can use a track and just sing any spots for your student to copy that you need to. Is this an ideal scenario? No. Is it a reasonable short-term solution? Yes. Don't let your ego, imposter syndrome, inner critic, or perfectionism stop you from being of service and sharing what you know. Trust that the universe will send you exactly the right students who are primed to learn from you and who you are primed to teach. This is great, Fiona. Now I do feel like I might be able to start teaching even though I don't play well. But despite taking my share of singing lessons, I'm not exactly sure how to structure a lesson. Well, if you're curious about how to plan your lessons, then go ahead and hit the notification bell, because in my next video, that's exactly what we'll be covering: how to structure a singing lesson when you're just starting to build your confidence as a teacher. If you found this video useful, please go ahead and like it, share it, subscribe to my channel, and let me know your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Because I'm deeply committed to you and to this channel, your feedback is immensely supportive. Please don't underestimate what leaving a comment means to me. These are early days for me here on YouTube, and your participation and engagement in the process not only help to grow this channel in terms of the YouTube algorithm, it even more importantly helps me to keep motivated as a creator. As I film this video in October 2019, I still read and respond to every comment. Even more importantly, I truly appreciate every interaction here and over on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. Also, since you're interested in teaching, make sure you watch these videos all about starting and running a voice studio, and especially this video on how to grow your studio once you're established. In fact, it can never be too early to think about scaling and setting goals for future growth. And as always, go out into the world and let your light shine. You deserve to be heard, and the world deserves to hear you.